There comes a moment when you realize that what has been opposing you is not stronger than you. It has only been louder. Today is the moment you reclaim your authority, silence every opposing force, and step back into command of your life. This is not about fear, fate, or chance. This is about power, awareness, and decisive intention. What was assigned to stop you will not outlast your resolve. You were never created to live under pressure you did not authorize. Anything that drains your strength, disrupts your focus, or interferes with your progress operates only because it has gone unchallenged. Once something is exposed, it loses its control. Once it is confronted, it loses its advantage. Today, you confront every hidden resistance with clarity and force. Every assignment designed to delay you depends on confusion, distraction, and hesitation. The moment you become clear, it weakens. The moment you stand firm, it collapses. You are not here to negotiate with opposition. You are here to terminate it. Anything that thrives on your silence is canceled the moment you speak with conviction. Your voice carries authority when it is aligned with intention. When you declare that certain cycles end, they end. When you decide that certain patterns no longer have access to you, they lose entry. This is not wishful thinking. This is deliberate alignment with purpose and power. What cannot stand in clarity cannot survive your decision. Every setback that was meant to discourage you becomes evidence of your endurance. Every obstacle that was meant to exhaust you becomes proof of your strength. You are not behind. You are positioned. You are not blocked. You are being redirected into greater precision. Resistance does not mean denial. It often signals proximity to breakthrough. Authority begins the moment you become aware of what is truly influencing your life. Many people struggle not because they lack strength, but because they have not identified the sources shaping their reactions, decisions, and patterns. Awareness removes confusion and replaces it with clarity. When you see clearly, you stop fighting imaginary battles and start addressing real obstacles with precision and confidence. Unseen influences thrive in silence and distraction. When you move through life on autopilot, external pressures quietly dictate your pace, direction, and priorities. Awareness interrupts this process. It forces you to slow down, observe, and recognize what has been draining your focus or redirecting your energy. Once exposed, these influences lose their ability to control outcomes. Authority is not about dominance over others. It is about mastery over self. Awareness reveals where you have been responding emotionally instead of strategically. It shows you where habits, environments, or unchecked thoughts have weakened your position. This understanding empowers you to shift from reaction to intention, replacing impulse with purpose. When you gain awareness, you stop blaming circumstances and start reclaiming responsibility. You realize that not everything needs to be confronted externally. Some things must be corrected internally. Authority grows when you accept that your responses shape your reality more than external conditions ever could. Clarity sharpens decision-making. Awareness helps you distinguish between what demands your attention and what merely competes for it. You learn to recognize distractions disguised as opportunities and pressure disguised as urgency. This discernment protects your time and strengthens your leadership over your own life. With awareness comes the ability to set boundaries without guilt or explanation. You recognize when something no longer aligns with your direction, and you disengage without hesitation. Authority matures when you stop negotiating with what diminishes your focus and start honoring what supports your progress. Awareness also exposes patterns that repeat because they were never challenged. Once you see a cycle clearly, it loses its mystery. You understand why it started, how it continues, and what choices keep it alive. This knowledge places the power of interruption in your hands. As awareness increases, confidence follows. You trust your perception because it is grounded in observation rather than assumption. You no longer second guess every move because your decisions are informed, intentional, and aligned with your objectives. Confidence rooted in awareness is steady and unshaken. Authority strengthens when you become aware of your internal dialogue. The way you speak to yourself influences what you tolerate and what you pursue. Awareness allows you to replace limiting narratives with constructive direction, reinforcing control over your mindset and actions. Through awareness, you stop being managed by external noise and start leading your life with clarity and precision. You move with intention, respond with wisdom, and act from a position of understanding rather than pressure. Cancellation begins the moment a clear decision is made. Nothing changes until you decide that what has been happening can no longer continue. Delays, patterns, and repeated setbacks lose momentum when met with firm resolve. A decision is not a feeling, it is a line drawn that defines what is allowed and what is no longer permitted. Many situations persist, not because they are powerful, but because they remain undecided. Indecision creates space for disruption to operate freely. The moment you choose, that space closes. Decision brings structure where chaos once existed and direction where confusion once ruled. When you decide, you interrupt cycles that depended on your hesitation. Patterns repeat because they are familiar, not because they are necessary. A decision introduces disruption to the familiar and opens the door to change. What once felt permanent suddenly becomes optional. True cancellation requires ownership. A decision places responsibility back in your hands rather than leaving it in circumstances. You acknowledge that while you may not control everything, you always control your response and direction. This ownership is the foundation of lasting change. A decision also reorders priorities. It forces alignment between intention and action. Once you decide, excuses lose credibility and distractions lose appeal. Your energy becomes focused because it is now guided by clarity rather than convenience. Many people wait for motivation before deciding, but decision itself generates momentum. Action follows clarity, not emotion. The strength to move forward often appears only after the decision has been made. Waiting delays progress, deciding activates it. Decision-making exposes what truly matters. When you choose growth, comfort must be challenged. When you choose progress, familiarity must be questioned. Cancellation always costs something, but the cost of staying the same is far greater. Every firm decision weakens resistance. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable when faced with certainty. Resistance feeds on doubt and hesitation, but it retreats when met with consistency and resolve. Once a decision is made, boundaries become easier to enforce. You no longer negotiate with what contradicts your direction. You recognize when something does not align, and you disengage without guilt or confusion. Decision transforms intention into authority. It signals that you are no longer waiting for conditions to change, but are choosing to change conditions through deliberate action. Action is the visible evidence of power in motion. Intentions remain theoretical until they are translated into movement. The moment you act, authority shifts from thought to reality. Action proves that you believe in your capacity to influence outcomes rather than simply observe them. Power that is never exercised becomes dormant. Many people possess insight, awareness, and potential, yet remain stagnant because action is delayed. Movement activates what reflection alone cannot. Each step forward validates your ability to shape direction and create momentum. Action removes uncertainty, while overthinking multiplies doubt. Execution simplifies complexity. When you move, you gather information, build confidence, and refine direction. Progress reveals what planning alone can never uncover. Consistent action builds credibility with yourself. Every time you follow through, trust in your own ability strengthens. This internal trust becomes a foundation for greater responsibility, clearer decisions, and stronger leadership over your life. Action also disrupts fear. Fear thrives in anticipation, but weakens in execution. Once you engage, hesitation loses its grip. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move despite it. Momentum is created through repeated action, not occasional effort. Small, disciplined steps accumulate into powerful results. Each action compounds, turning persistence into progress and effort into mastery. Through action, clarity sharpens. Direction becomes easier to maintain when you are moving rather than waiting. Action reveals alignment by showing what works and what does not, allowing adjustment without paralysis. Action separates desire from commitment. Many want change, but only those who act demonstrate readiness. Commitment is measured not by intention, but by consistency and movement. When you act, you reclaim control over time. Waiting surrenders authority to circumstances, while action asserts leadership over outcomes. Movement repositions you from passive observer to active creator. Action confirms power by making inner resolve visible in tangible results, reinforcing that progress belongs to those who choose movement over hesitation.